meaning and scope and nature of anthropology. Please remember here we have to understand few terms as we said earlier that vocabulary of anthropology matters a lot. Here we'll be introducing two methods of research in the field of anthropology. Number one is ethnology and another one is ethnography. So these two are very popular methods of anthropological studies. So what is ethnology and how different it is from that of ethnography? So ethnology is about studying groups of people across the globe. Please understand this. So comparing different societies or different groups of people and their origins, evolution and their variations or differences between each other. So it is more of a comparative, statistical and a kind of work which is done by scholars at the comfort of their office. Collect the data, compare the data, collate the data and arrive at certain conclusions based on comparative studies. So here ethnology can be understood as ethnos means people or group of people and ology is study. So here comparison between different groups of people at the same time by a scholar is ethnology and that scholar is called as ethnologist. So this is one method of studying anthropology or humans as groups, and another method of studying anthropology is in the form of ethnography. So ethnography focuses on studying one particular group of people at a time. In-depth, detailed, first-hand study of singular group of people and their ways of life in a particular setup, in a particular social, in a particular environmental setup, and giving a detailed description and documentation of a singular group of people at a time, which includes and involves a participant observation method, that is scholar lives with those people who are being studied and a first-hand account of those people's lives would be documented by the scholar himself or herself. So such a method of study of anthropology is ethnography and such a scholar is referred as ethnographer. So we have the basic difference between ethnology and ethnography simplified. Next is the nature of anthropology. So here we should differentiate between two words again here. So nature and characteristics. So when we study about nature of anthropology and characteristics of anthropology, how do we differentiate these two? Most of the people would understand that nature and characteristics are one and the same and most people use them interchangeably. So let me clarify on these things here. Nature is description about anything. It can be about a person, a creature, a place or an event based on its inherent qualities. That means what it is based on its own objective existence, based on its own inherent internal qualities. Such a description about anything, a person or a creature or a place or an event based on its inherent qualities is called as nature. Then what is characteristic here? So characteristic is based on the way we perceive them. That is based on the influence of the surroundings, based on the influence and impact of environmental factors on a person, on a creature, on an event or on a place. So gradual over a period of time when things or places or objects or persons or creatures undergo changes because of the impact of their surroundings. So such changes are considered as characteristics. So here we can say that nature is objective and characteristic is subjective. So what is objective? Objective is based on what it is by its very own existence and based on its own internal qualities. What is subjective? Subjective is based on how we perceive things or persons or places or events based on what they have become because of the impact or influence of certain conditions or environmental factors. So nature of anthropology is about studying human beings in groups across time and space. So study of humans in totality. What is totality here? There is a study approach in anthropology called as holism. We will be learning about this eventually. So what is holism here? Holos, a Greek term which means in totality or in its entirety. So holos, studying human beings in all possible perspectives. What do you mean by all possible perspectives here? that is biological perspective, psychological perspective, emotional perspective, social perspective, cultural perspective. So in all these possible perspectives, when you study humans of the past and present across the globe, across time and space, so such a study about human beings is called as in totality, that is holistic study. So holism is one unique approach in anthropological research, which we'll be studying in the eventual classes or subsequent classes. So here, study of human beings in totality across time and space is anthropology. So the very nature of anthropology is understood in the form of what? Human beings are biological entities primarily. Human beings have specific psychological aspects, and human beings live in groups, and human beings have unique ways of life depending on the surrounding natural environmental conditions. So this is the nature or the scope of anthropology. That is, what is nature here? What human beings are primarily based on their internal qualities. That is, number one, biological. That means humans are animals. That means biological creatures primarily. Next is human beings have specific behavioral patterns. That means human beings are psychological entities. Next is human beings live in groups. That is the very internal quality of humans, and it is a rare feat to find a human in solitary conditions. That means humans do not exist alone or in its singular or in their singular form. They don't exist. They cannot survive if they are alone. So we have a lot of evidences to support this statement here. We'll be talking about them eventually in our subsequent classes. So humans by nature are social. What is social? Living in groups is being social. And then humans living in groups have distinct, unique ways of life designed for living. So all these four form the nature or natural components of human beings, which is the essence of anthropology. So biological, psychological, social and cultural aspects of humans form the nature of anthropology. Next is why we study anthropology. To prove what? What is the aim or goal of anthropology? We can understand the scope of anthropology through its subcomponents or branches through specific approaches or themes. So we'll be describing these two eventually. So the subcomponents of anthropology which can be understood to describe the scope of anthropology would be: number one, biological anthropology. We divide anthropology for our convenience to achieve a particular goal or aim. So that aspect becomes the scope of anthropology. Scope means what? What you want to achieve, what you want to prove, what is the aim or goal of your study. Through the term anthropology, what you want to prove, what is that you want to establish, and what is your goal to achieve. So that is the meaning of scope of anthropology. So here, scope of anthropology can be understood through its subcomponents like biological anthropology, which is also known as physical anthropology. Second component is the socio-cultural anthropology. The third approach to understand scope of anthropology is archaeological anthropology, and the fourth component or sub branch of anthropology to understand the scope of anthropology is linguistic anthropology, and the fifth subcomponent of anthropology to understand the scope is the applied anthropology. Through these 5 different methods we can understand the scope of anthropology, and anthropological research in general will have different perspectives to understand the scope of anthropology. So those perspectives are in the form of holistic perspective or holistic theme we call. Next is the comparative theme or comparative perspective. Third is emics and ethics perspective or emics and ethics theme we have. And then we have systems and process approach or systems and process theme to study the scope of anthropology. So we have participant observation, we have fieldwork tradition in anthropology. So we have multiple approaches or themes to understand the scope of anthropology in general. So number one, so what is physical or biological anthropology to understand the scope? So through this physical or biological anthropology, we want to establish the origin, the evolution and variation between human beings as biological entities. What do you mean by biological entity here? That means we are living organisms which lived in the past, who are living now, and which will live continuously into the future with certain kind of aspects which are similar to the animals which existed in the past. So which say that humans have animal or biological origins. So anthropology aims to study the humans through biological or animal perspective. So this perspective developed in 18th century, and Immanuel Kant was a scholar who gave this perspective primarily, that the study of man having animal origins, social and cultural developments is a study of human beings. Study of animal origins, social and cultural development is anthropology as defined by Immanuel Kant, an 18th century scholar. So for the first time he described that humans have animal origins. That means the origin, evolution and variation between humans of the past and present would be the goal of or aim of biological anthropology. Through this we establish that humans have common origins and why humans differ from each other. So this is the scope of biological anthropology. And in this we have different subcomponents in the form of what? Paleontology, neontology, we study about epidemiology, we study about genetics, and we study about the comparative approaches between the past humans and their body organs and the present humans and their body organs, and then what kind of changes have occurred in the tissues or bones or the skeleton, and eventually which led to a different ways of life of people over a period of time. So this becomes the essence of biological. And next is what? Your socio-cultural anthropology. So socio-cultural anthropology aims to study humans existing in groups across time and space. That means humans lived in groups in the past, and humans are also living in groups as of now with distinctive ways of life. So this humans living as groups, having meaningful relationships between each other and having interdependencies on each other is the essence of social aspect of humans. And here social part of anthropology focuses on origin, evolution and variation between groups of people in the past as well as present. And cultural aspect of human beings studies about why humans live differently from each other, why groups of humans, or we call them as societies for simplification purposes, that why different groups of people across the globe in the past as well as present had different ways of life. What do you mean by ways of life here? That means what they eat, how they design their clothing, and what are their belief systems, and how do they perform their economic activities, and what are the political organization of various groups of people in the past as well as. So all these aspects are discussed under cultural studies of humans. So social and cultural aspects of humans focus on origin, evolution and variation between different groups of people of the past and present, and why they differ from each other in their ways of life becomes the scope of socio-cultural anthropology. Next subcomponent of anthropology to understand the scope is archaeological anthropology. We know that archaeology is all about studying the remains of past humans. So it is all about establishing a link between past humans and present humans, and to prove that the present humans and present human societies evolved from those existed in the past. So this is a science of 2D. We call it as 2D science, that is archaeology. So first D is digging, and second is dating. So digging is what? A scientific excavation of certain places in the world which reveal about our past humans or our ancestors. And dating, that is ascertaining their age so that we can arrange our past to present journey in a chronological order. So the scope of anthropology, scope of archaeological anthropology is to establish a scientific connection between past humans and present humans across biological, social, and cultural domains. So the next subcomponent of anthropology to understand scope is linguistic anthropology. So linguistic anthropology explains about the origin and variation between human languages and how languages determine our ways of life, and how our ways of life differentiate the way we communicate and the way we establish relationships. So linguistic anthropology aims to achieve the goal of what the world means and why people are different from each other in the past as well as in the present. And the next subcomponent of anthropology to understand scope of anthropology is applied anthropology. Applied anthropology helps people to get involved in administration, policy making, and to make a difference in the lives of people in day-to-day business. So this is the scope of applied anthropology. So this is the scope part of the anthropology. And next is, what are the anthropological research methods to understand this scope or to study anthropology in a more rational and scientific manner? We have few approaches or themes or perspectives we call. If you feel that this session was of some use to you, please do like, share and subscribe our channel WinIQ, and do not forget to give your valuable comments in the comment section below so that all your comments would motivate us to make more such valuable content in the future. Thank you.